Hello, today is your day to actually wake up to hope at the table of redemption. We are in season 1, building bridges of hope and redemption in crises. We are in part 3, Global Voices in Leadership on Resilience, Faith, and Transformation. And today's global voice comes from my colleague, Pavani from India. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our episode of The Table of Redemption. This is a place where we build bridges of hope, love, joy, and kindness in a time of crises. Table of Redemption is the conversation starter of the Leadership Redemption framework that I developed during my time at Harvard. And what better time to launch it than when me and my colleagues, we just graduated. And we're in so much transition. We're coming from one country to another country, a job here, returning to our families. There's so much going on in the world that I just thought that we'll be the best case scenario to give you a whole image of what redemption looks like straight out of Harvard Graduate School of Education. Today, I have one of my good friends with me and colleague, Pavani. She is a Fulbright and she's from India. We have had so many beautiful conversations and so much connectedness and interconnectedness during my time at Harvard. I would not want to do this podcast without her. So, Pavani, the question is, so what brings you to the table today, the table of redemption?
Thank you, Rasheen. It's amazing. It feels like, we are still sitting on campus and having these conversations. So thank you so much for making me feel like that, though I'm sitting on another continent. And yeah, it's amazing. So what brings me is, as you said, I am a higher ed leader working at the intersection of policy and education, and I am a mother. I'm a woman navigating the complex leadership space, and I am an I am a lifelong learner. So I'm somebody who is working on this grand vision where every learner, regardless of their background or identity or zip code, is supported by the system in a way that they thrive in their own lives and they become a key contributor to the country and to the economy. So obviously when you're dealing with such a big vision and then you're driven by that, um, you start feeling deeply about also the issues that you see around you, and you tend to think, or there are so many times that you feel lost, like you feel overwhelmed because by seeing the challenges around you. As you mentioned, we are living in a time of crisis. So for me, I know that I can't fix everything, like no one can, but I do strongly believe that I have my own part in doing or making this a better world. So it's like, if so think of a big jigsaw puzzle, and if you take a small piece of it, it wouldn't have any value on its own. But if you look at the bigger picture, the puzzle would be incomplete without that small piece, right? So yeah, so I feel like that small piece of the big picture. And yeah, I strongly believe that however small, I have that value, and then it's my duty or responsibility to realize that and act on that.
Awesome. That is so, that jigsaw puzzle analogy, that hit home with me. That hit me right here. That is awesome. One of the things that you'll hear me say on other podcasts is say it again. So throughout this time, if it hits me right here, I'm preparing you. I'm going to say, "Oh wait, say it again," because we need to be touched. I think that's one of the things that happen in crisis. We get numb. We get afraid. We just don't know how to act. And I want this show to be something that wakes people's emotions back up, to care and to love and not be so afraid of, like you said, difference, change, exchange, and everything else in between. So that touched me so much because now it makes me feel like that's what this podcast is doing. It's one little small piece in the big world.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
important.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. So everybody, um,
yeah,
is a few things I always do. I always take a moment to honor my guests and also what I call blow their heads up. In other words, like talk about their accomplishments for them because they're not going to do it. When you get to Harvard, a lot of the word people automatically think of elite or super selective school or Ivy League, but everybody is so humble. Oh my God, everybody is so humble, honestly. We walk around in regular clothes, regular people, we got regular bills we got to pay. It's still like that. But listen, Pavani is a Fulbright scholar. And let me make sure you understand what I'm saying because Fulbright scholars, they participate in a Fulbright program. Like it's like a really prestigious international exchange program that provides opportunities for students and scholars and professionals to conduct research and teach or study in a foreign country. So she brings greetings from India. Right now she's in India. And so when she was here with us,
yeah,
in Harvard Graduate School of Education. That was one of the things that she was here to do, to be a Fulbright. You can also look up Pavani. Pavani is Dr. Pavani, just so you would know. She has a PhD already. We earned an EDM in Harvard's 9-month accelerated advanced program, but she has already earned a PhD already. So when you look Pavani up, you'll be able to see a whole entire page of just accomplishments of what she's been able to do, especially in her charitable work and work with, just different organizations that I'll let her talk about. I won't talk too much about it, but it's critical for me to be able to highlight and honor my friends, the people I sat next to in classes, the people that I ate with, the people that we walked together with, and we just hugged. She gives the best hugs, everybody. So
you too.
and okay, I give them too. So that's just a little bit of
Yeah.
groundwork. So Pavani, can you tell us a little bit more insight about earning the Fulbright, about coming into Harvard, and basically your academic journey, little bit by little bit, especially giving a lot of the climate with women, and when we talking about being a woman and how proud we are to be a woman, that means in other countries, it is not something that's honored as much as it should be. But can you give light to how well you've been able to um, overcome a lot of challenges and also earn these prestigious awards?
Yeah. So let me start with my background. You have minority statuses, right? Different. So I am like uh, double minority, triple minority status. Okay. First of all, like if you look at the gender, I'm a woman. I'm already disadvantaged in many of the countries. I do not want to generalize that about India because, I mean, there is good and bad everywhere. So I don't want to generalize. So I'm a woman and I come from a socio-economically backward class in India. And I mean, to give you a perspective, to give you an idea, the community that I come from have been subjected to untouchability in the modern history. Like, so they were one of the few groups of people or communities that were considered as untouchables,
Mm.
and they who usually lived at the margins of the towns and villages and never allowed were into the main central areas of the village. So that's one. And then the second is I come from a poor family. Like I don't have an inheritance, a rich inheritance. And I keep telling my friends that if not for the Fulbright scholarship, I would not even dream of coming to Harvard, because I'm telling you, the day I received my Fulbright scholarship, I didn't even have enough money in my bank account to pay for my flight tickets to the US. Forget about paying Harvard tuition fees. And I keep telling my son, you have met my son, right? When he was at Harvard. I mean, you see him traveling to the US now, but my first air travel was in my PhD, and that too, it was funded by the German government because I was a DAD scholar, exchange student. going to do my research program in Germany. So that's my background. So now you understand how important for me is this Fulbright or this opportunity to be able to come and experience, have this Harvard experience, and then bring it back to India where I can serve my own community. So that's my background. And then despite all this, what I've been like as an individual. So these are different things that were beyond my control, right? I was born with them. I was born with those identities, but the identities that I gave myself are like I'm a curious person.
Yeah.
I am a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
So these are the identities that I built with my own efforts and hard work, and I'm very proud of those identities. So that curiosity and lifelong learning has made me to look for opportunities, to dream about things that usually nobody in my community or family would talk about or circles would talk about. Like, for example, my parents had to Google and find out what is Harvard University to know, like once they found out that, I got admitted into Harvard. Like they didn't even hear the word Harvard before, like I told them about it. That's the kind of community I grew up with. So yeah, so that lifelong learning and curiosity has brought me till here. Like, and also, um, like for example, I was always passionate about learning and science, so it was natural for me to get till PhD. And then I told you something in the when we were just chatting like, about how important it is for me to add value or create value where I am. So when I was at the end of my PhD, getting my award and thinking of the next steps, should I join a company, a biotech company where I can be a research scientist, or continue go for a postdoctoral fellowship training abroad. So I didn't see any additional value that I could add in both places. Like I'm still passionate about science and doing science, and I sometimes miss my lab and workbench. But at the same time, I was like, when I asked that question, where can I add more value? Being a postdoctoral fellow or a scientist, research scientist, didn't make much sense to me. And then, so it was around the same time that I had my son, and I started thinking about the world around us, and what can I do to make so that he grows into a better world, that tomorrow would be better for my son. So it started as a selfish goal, which is not so very selfish now. I was like, but it started with that. So yeah, so then I figured that, I might do a good job in teaching, because people sort of always appreciated how I explained or how I gave the presentation. So I decided to be a faculty member. So I taught for a couple of years, and then I realized that, oh my God, this is not what I thought the world is, because through scholarships, because since childhood I was learning, working hard, I earned scholarships to study in some of the best institutions in India. So I never had the opportunity to go to a tier 2 or tier 3 institution and see how teaching happens there or how learning happens there. So when I was my first teaching assignment was in a rural college with marginalized students. It was a minority serving institution.
Mhm.
And it was there in that classroom, those students who have opened my eyes to the reality of the world, and I was shocked. I was like, I was under the impression that everybody would be getting the same kind of education that I received throughout my life. And then there I saw what kind of bubble I was living in. And then it was that inspiration that motivated me to go out of the classroom space, because I mean, I love teaching. My students are still in touch with me, the first batches that I taught, and then they tell that they miss me in the classroom. But I decided that, or I felt that it's like being in the classroom, I have the power to, like, I used to teach a class of 120, but what about the 30-40 classes in my college? What
Yeah.
about the hundreds of colleges in my city? What about the 49,000 institutions in my country? So then I started dreaming about what if I can get to a place where I can influence or create change, not just in my own classroom, but in classrooms across the country, across the state. So that's when I decided, like, let me get a formal training in education, what education means, like, what is education leadership. And that's what actually brought got me to think about pursuing a formal degree and then looking for the best places that can give that degree. And then obviously Harvard is one of those places. And then I don't have the money even to pay flights for Harvard. How can I study at Harvard? So that's when I started looking for scholarships and then Fulbright. So that's the whole story of how I landed where I landed.
Yeah, that is so amazing. You touched me so deeply in three or more areas. One, when you talked about at the beginning how the part of India or the community where you guys were considered the untouchables. Is that the same
Yeah.
word that they call Dalits in your country?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember watching a movie, The Origin, and learning of that word for the first time and learning that your country experienced a lot of that. And I think that maybe kind of like I'm finding out our bond because as an African American or a Black American, as people would call it, that was the very same kind of way I grew up. Same. And it is just amazing on camera, everybody. Like me and Pavani have been close throughout the time and I don't know why I'm about to cry, but it feels like that's my sister. And now I'm figuring out why. That's the way we conducted ourselves. We're colleagues, but our bond was, I think, was so peaceful and just, I don't know, it just was like a different fabric, right? And I'm here, you may see me on screen looking at her in awe because I didn't know any of that. Like you could never tell she didn't have this or didn't have that. She was just kind. She just loved people and just she she handled business. So I'm so proud of you. Number two, we have in common growing up in the rural communities, but then going back to teaching the rural communities to find out that I'm like I knew I was poor, but I didn't know I was that poor until I start teaching in marginalized communities, which now make up my entire career, rural impoverished communities, Title I communities, and it is my BFF. It's what I do for a living to be able to remove roadblocks or misfortune out of their way, and because if it were not for me going back to the classroom teaching music in the rural community, there was so much love in rural communities that people don't talk about. They think about poverty as though like we're down on our luck and that we don't have no food. We looking so bad. We had a lot of fun. I mean, we learned family. We learned like forgiveness. We learned how to share. It's so many skills we learned because it was limitations and we had to sacrifice everything. So you had to figure out other skills of resilience that by the time you get to other communities, like y'all don't share, y'all don't talk to each other, like y'all don't respect each other. And you have all the money in the world. It was just like that for me. So hearing you dissect that and give us, I call it deposits of hope from your background, I'm just in awe of that. And number three, when you were talking about your journey from India to Harvard, and for me, I came from Florida to Harvard, which was 20 hours. Internationally, I know it's up there like the prices, but it was provided, and it's like I'm still in awe how everything was paid for. Like even to this moment, like paying the last bill of rent, paying the last everything, up to the unto the bitter end, there was always a prayer going up. How is this going to get paid for? How am I going to get back here? How am I going to get back there? But family supported, throughout the way. Of course, I'm a Bearcat Fellow and, had other financial assistance, along the way, but it still costs to be the boss. It still
Yeah,
costs
yeah,
to,
yeah.
you don't,
And
there's,
also not just the monetary cost or the money that we are paying, the other opportunity costs that we are,
yeah,
yeah, to be there, like to stay away from family for the whole year, because I simply can't afford to bring the whole family there. I mean, I hardly have money to pay for my bills. I can't pay for my sons and, the whole family. So giving up that up, giving up the community and, what you can do in your community in that 1 year. Like, for example, I had a job, so I had to, I was on leave when I came there, and then I had to give up the annual increments, my chance to get promoted just to come and be at Harvard. So it's like there are so many other things that you pay, not just the money. And none of that has stopped you or me. So I am actually quite proud looking back of what we did. Yeah,
This is why we're at the table of redemption. This is
yeah,
why when I started this work 20 years ago, Pavani, when I started in the rural communities and
mhm,
it's like what you were saying you wanted to do for your son. Like your
mhm.
first plane ticket flight is when you're like in PhD level. His was
Yeah,
I saw him, I met him, right? And
yeah,
he is like not this tall, like, and he's
yeah.
flying
His age, yeah,
internationally. You see what I'm
yeah,
saying? And so
yeah, yeah,
redemption is being that person that you're not good at taking no for an answer every single time. You literally said, I'm going to find a solution. You know, when we think about the number of women in India and the number of women even in parts of the United States who do not have that power, inner strength, that agency that we've been
yeah,
taught or exposed to enough to say,
yeah,
I understand, I'm not judging anybody else. I just don't want that for me. I just
yeah.
don't want that for
True.
me.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
just not us. Yeah,
yeah, you see, so it's
yeah,
it's it's redemption. Redemption as defined by not necessarily an atonement, which what people when they look up the word redemption, they may find a forgiveness of sins or an atonement for something you've done wrong. But this form of redemption is a transformation that have happened called a redemption arc. And we have overcome. So this version of redemption that you're describing, or that I've described in the framework, right, is someone who knows how to take it and go over the mountain and be transformed coming out of it. And then there's other forms of redemption that you lost something and you want it back. Like it's so many different ways. So I love this way we're warming up and laying our foundation before we get into the questions. Can you go back a little bit and talk about your family? Your family, do you want to say hi to mom, dad, your husband, your son, call their names? Do you want to let them know how much you love them? Because that's what we do on this show. It's redemption for a reason because we know we
yeah,
didn't make it on our own. So I will give you that space to do that.
yeah. So obviously, like, I won't be here without family support, right? They have been like strong source of strength for me throughout. And Yeah, I mean, if I have to talk about my parents, both my mom and dad, like they still do their best. Like, for example, they still like, even today, yesterday, I met my dad. He tries to buy me something or, give small gifts. It's like for them, you're still the same little girl.
Yes.
And then, yeah, so they don't see this Harvard written graduate when they see me, which I love. That they don't do that, and they still see me like their little girl and try to help me and support me, however, like in whatever way possible. So thankfully I live close to them, so that's why I get to see them often and spend time with them more frequently. And then and you have met my son, and he is I mean, I keep telling him that, I'm so lucky to have him as my son. So it's like, yeah, so that's the kind of bond that I share with him. I think mostly with every mother and son
Mhm.
child, it's the same thing. So one purpose for him that I see is he definitely made me a better person because, when you have children, you tend to preach them a lot, tell them how to be or how to behave, but then you also want to make sure that you are practicing whatever you're preaching to your children. So in that process, you become better individuals. Like through parenting a child, you become a better person, and definitely has made me a better person. Like I've been more kind, more empathetic, more uh, better in every way, especially on the emotional side, and so more accepting, more forgiving. All that I've learned in my motherhood. So I just have to thank him for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to meet your husband at the
Yeah, yeah, he was here in the winter break, but
Okay.
we couldn't meet. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he couldn't travel in the summer, so I had to just bring my son. Yeah,
Yeah. My
yeah.
husband couldn't be there a lot either. But did you meet him one time?
Yes, at the international student reception
Okay, good.
before the commencement. Yeah, I think we also have a picture together,
Yes,
three
yes.
of us. Yeah,
And that's another thing I related to you well on when you were talking earlier about the opportunity costs and the sacrifices of being away from family, being away from
yeah,
friends, being away from a whole world that you knew. For me,
yeah.
it was me 20 hours away, but for you, it was oceans and oceans
Mm.
away. For
Time zones. Yeah,
time zones, like what time is it now in India?
it's 11:30 p.m.
Wow. And for me it's like 1:51 p.m. So it's up there. So it's such a
Yeah.
sacrifice being on here to capture your story. Out right away to my listening audience right away. You can see um Pavani's passion and her love for humanity and her love for just change and being a positive influence. And I love the fact that she's been able to tell us right away the impact of her upbringing. And it's going to get into us talking about resilience, right? And talk about purpose without having to do so much talking because she's already done it. But I want to make sure you can see the face of someone who has courage, someone who has that fortitude to somehow find a way. And when you are able to be that leader who goes into your body, your when like literally there is no way. I want people to understand when you're talking about rural, impoverished, minority, we're not talking about a piece of cake here. We're talking about like there's dirt, there's no resources. You have to dig underground. You have to mine. You have to dig down. There, I promise you, there is no way. You have to literally figure out ways for your life to make it when other people may have the money, the connections, the time, the look. They may have all this stuff. I didn't have any of that. I just had family, I had my faith, and I was just so determined. Like I had examples around me as well, just to do more and go forward. And my sister friend and colleague has done the same thing. So as we move on to the next part of our conversation of hope and redemption and building bridges, right? Because that's what we're here to do. So we can make sure that you see two people that are working to change the world. And she may be an ocean away. I may be just a few hours away from you, wherever it is, but change must go on nonetheless. So, Pavani, when we think about the word purpose and or the word purpose driven, can you talk to me about how you even define purpose or what purpose means to you, as you have done the work of becoming the resilient person that you are?
Yeah, so Rasheen, I think it's a very deep question, and the more you reflect, the more it comes out. But for me, to simply tell you, the my purpose is to transform the education systems in a way that the system gives everybody a fair chance, because I told you my background already. There was no way, no other way for me to be sitting here and having this conversation with you if not for that power of the transforming power of education.
Yeah.
And I would not even limit to education, honestly, because that's again another learning that I've learned is it's more about learning education and learning, both the formal education and also the informal learning, because I've realized that a formal education or a degree doesn't guarantee you the learning,
Yes. Say
you
it
know.
again. Say it again. Say
Yeah.
it again. The formal
Yeah,
education.
doesn't guarantee that you have learned. It
Yes.
is just a degree. It guarantees, or it shows that you have earned the degree, but it doesn't show what you have learned unless you go out there and show that learning or do something with that learning, right? So I think so that's my purpose. I mean, because if not for that learning, if not for that education, I can't even imagine how my life would be right now
Mm.
and how my son's life would have been right now. Definitely he would not have visited or heard of Harvard. Okay, now he is dreaming of coming there. He is aspiring to coming there, come there and study there. So that's the power. And imagine if, I mean, imagine the number of girls or women like me coming from a similar background, having that opportunity or having that power or having the chance to experience that power. And what if, I keep asking these questions, what if I hadn't applied to that university that day? What if I haven't thought of Fulbright? What if I haven't heard of this opportunity? My life would have been completely different if not for that scholarship, if not for that one university, or if not for that one mentor that I met by chance or a friend who told me about an opportunity. And I strongly feel that, and this is life changing. We are talking about life changing opportunities, okay?
Yes.
And
Paradigm
a
shift.
life changing for generations, not just one
Yes.
life. You're changing generations.
Yes.
So yeah, so I, I honestly don't think that we should leave it up to chance.
Ooh.
We should not leave it up to luck. We should not like, okay, Pavni was lucky. She stumbled through all these opportunities. No, I mean, just because you didn't get lucky doesn't mean that you don't deserve all these opportunities. That's what actually drives me. That's what my purpose is, to be a part of the system or to be that agent where I can help build a system that is fair to everybody, that gives an equal opportunity to everyone to prove themselves. At least, we all know that our potential, individual potential varies. Definitely, we are not all made same. We all have our own unique strengths and vulnerabilities. But that opportunity, having that shot at something, is something that all of us deserve.
Mm.
How well you make use of that shot is up to you and your own interests and capabilities. But I think everybody deserves worth at least the shot to uh, at their dream or whatever they want to pursue in life. And I think as leaders, it's our responsibility to create that system architecture in that
Yes.
way. And that's my purpose. Like, that's just imagine my life. I keep imagining my life without all these instances. And then I was like, no, I mean, there could be so many other girls and Pavnis who can have it if you had a fair system, if you had a better system. So that is my purpose right now. But growing up, if you ask me, I never had this kind of purpose or clarity. I mean, it was more developed when I started working. But growing up, it was more like passion, like the passion I had for learning, the passion I had for science and education. And so that's what drove me until my PhD. But after PhD, it was always this question, like every little thing that happened to me, every little step I took, mostly it was either chance or I was lucky, and also the agency that I had.
Yeah.
I was brave enough to seize that opportunity when it was there. First of all, to see that, having that vision or that knowledge to see that opportunity, to see the potential in that opportunity, and then being brave enough to seize that opportunity.
Mm.
How many of the girls around you or my students were doing that? And our systems are not training even those people, students, to you know build that agency through education. So yeah, that's my purpose, and that's why I keep doing what I do
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so deeply moving as you're talking. It's like waves of hope. I see waves of hope, like someone listening is getting like a recharge in their spirit and their soul, because when we talk about access, the lack of access, or when we
Yeah.
read in our articles about those who are farthest from opportunity, when we're at Harvard, we don't include ourselves as those people because we're studying, we're being studied. But when I
Yeah.
read, I find myself in it. I made a vow to myself never to try to get into any space, whether elite or normal or whatever you call it, and remove myself from the struggle of what that means. And I think that that's one of the secrets purposes that you and I share without even saying it. It's almost like that's what's surfacing out of our dialogue right now, that because we have not been quote unquote delivered into this and catapulted into this big elite network of people, that like
Yeah.
I came back home to Florida to my community. It's a rural community. Like I,
Yeah.
I didn't I wasn't dumped off into a limousine ride or a helicopter ride or plane ride or anything. Like, so I think that's a part of the secret sauce of helping us keep our self purpose filled, and to be able to have an inner ability, an innate ability to refuel and retool our purpose as we continue this journey. Why? Because for our families and friends, we may be the only example they have. So it's almost like
Yeah.
keeping our lights on, our lights burning and shining. It's not just for us. It's a whole population of people that are looking up to Pavani or looking up to a Rasheen, or and saying, "Oh my God, I want to be that one day. I want to do that one day." And we're like, you can. Yeah, but what we're saying is there's a lot of hard work goes into it. There's a lot of discipline that goes into it. There's a lot of support that goes into it. There's a lot of finances that go into it. And there's a lot of just joy that you have to find it in order to make this lifestyle a possibility. Um,
Yeah.
so when you were talking about purpose, it sounds like you're talking about resilience to me. Can you take a moment to separate that out, and how does Pavani define resilience in your own terms, in your own words, and maybe a few factors, that you can like tell the audience, about what makes up a resilient person or a resilient Pavani over all this time, and how is that completely different, or is it different from you finding your purpose in the world?
For me, like resilience means, I think, different things to different people. For me, resilience is uh, flexibility. As I told you, it's one quality that I'm proud of myself. I mean, I've never been able to even tell it, share it out loud that I'm proud of certain things. But yeah, now I'm gathering the courage to say it out loud. So I think. Yeah, so I told you about my PhD journey, right? But I only shared what all worked. But there were so many steps or the opportunities that didn't turn out as the way I expected them to be. I told you that I got into PhD, but my PhD was another like era of like it's a long sob story basically how I got into a PhD at the institution where I want ultimately joined versus the institution that I was dreaming to get into. Like I took a gap year just to work on that, and everybody was against it. Like they couldn't understand why I was taking a gap year just to get into that dream institution to prepare for that exam and interview process, which ultimately I couldn't make it and the final round of interview. And then so it was like I was so disappointed, and then I had to take up, though my plan B was also a good institution, it was not the dream institution that I planned or imagined to join. So those setbacks were there at every step, for my master's, for my PhD, and then how my dream job, like which I worked really, really hard to crack because it's a competitive exam that you have to clear, and then to get that role. So I worked really hard and prayed so much for that, and only to discover that it turned out to be really disappointing and really unrewarding job, quite very stressful, burning me out. So there were so many moments throughout, even those success stories. Like you only publish the success stories, right? The
Yes.
people who see only see the end result, but there were a lot of disappointments at each and every step and failures in each step. But I think what got me through each of those moments, all of those moments, is my flexibility, I would say, because at every step, I refuse to believe that, okay, this is it. This is the end. Okay. So I think I always was able to see the future or the next steps. And then I was able to tell myself that, okay, we are here. This is not what we imagined that it would be, but it's okay. Let's try something in the next step. Let's see how I can make it better. So I think one of my strengths or what helps me build resilience is how I've accepted whatever happened, the unwanted results or whatever pushed me back, like how I accepted them, and then how I was able to learn from them. Like, okay, once you accept, you see, okay, what is the learning here? And then how do I move to the next step? Like, for example, uh, my job, I told you, right? I found it incredibly stressful and very underwater. So I was like, okay, what is that I can do? Okay, I can earn another degree that can give me a chance to get into a better role or look for better opportunities somewhere. So let me try doing that. So I had all my colleagues complaining all the time, like how the job was bad, how the boss was bad, how the situation or the system was very toxic, the culture was toxic. Yes, they were all there. They were the facts and truths, the system was bad, the job was bad. And but instead of complaining, I chose to act upon it. And then, I told I stay away from people who complain. Like,
Yes.
if there's something that you can do about it, do something about it. If there is nothing you can do about it, just accept it and move on.
Yes.
So that's my mantra. So I mean, yeah, so that's what resilience is for me. One, accept is flexibility, and then the other part is, I mean, this was all the practical or very materialistic parts that I went through, the disappointments where I needed resilience. And what I went through in Cambridge was a completely different experience for me. Like, it was much darker and deeper. And there were days when I didn't want to get out of my room. I didn't meet anyone, but obviously you didn't see that when we met for classes and for our conversations. But I was emotionally overwhelmed during certain periods. There were episodes of, where I needed therapy and counseling. I did all that, which I never did like back home, and I had to take help. But what kept me pushing or going in those moments was, again, a value that I hold very close or is important for me is accountability, being accountable. Like, if you have signed up for something, just be there, give your best for that. That is what I always try to do. And that's one of my, I think, characters that got me till here, and also helped me in times of like difficult times to be resilient. Like, yes, I'm going through all that, but I have a team project to work on. My
Yes.
teammates were counting on me, and I was here to do something, to learn something, and to, I was on a purpose there at Harvard. So I made sure that I was attending classes, submitting my papers, and, working with the teams and my friends, because that is my job. I have to be accountable. I have to do my job. So yeah, so I think that's resilience for me, like accepting what happened. It's not about like acting as if nothing happened to you and
Yeah.
you're like invincible. It's accepting that, it's okay, something bad happened to me. How do I get out of it? And second is, what is my duty? So I
Mm.
think if we remind ourselves of our duty, that will give us so much strength or push us forward to look beyond what has happened to us and to look into the future.
That is excellent. That is so excellent because here we are. I always like to bring the audience up to speed because I have people still in rural communities. I have people still, our professors are going to be listening. It's such a variety of audience that's here. But what Pavani just said to me is new in terms of how many of our guests have described flexibility. I mean, resilience. She said the core factor, one of the core factors is being flexible. And that is super amazing to like. I know you can see that. Like, okay, if you're watching this and hearing this, I know you can see that version of you. I know for a fact you can see how you've been flexible in taking yeses and nos. I remember in the Christian faith, one of my good friends said, Lord, I thank you for the yeses And I thank you for the no's. I thank you for all the doors you
Yeah,
opened and all the doors that you've closed, because
yeah,
it is one of
true.
those moments where you just, if you were not flexible, you would literally lose your mind. Honestly, I'm not being funny.
You're allowed to be disappointed, you're allowed to be angry, you're allowed to be mad, but like do that and then just think what next? What can I
Yes.
do?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And also, I think Rasheen, I only talked about what helped me, what was inside me that helped me build that resilience. But I think the most important factor is also what's outside you, or who are you, or what are you surrounded with. I'm just super lucky to be surrounded by good people, Rasheen.
Yeah.
I'm like touch would I tell that to everybody, like wherever I go. Let's say out of what our cohort size is 800,
Hmm.
800 plus cohort size, right?
Hmm.
And then you and I are here chatting today.
Yes.
So exactly. So I think I don't know if my friends tend to say that because good attracts good. You're a nice person, so you attract all the good people. But I consider myself lucky that I'm always surrounded by good people who uh, who are there to show me that when I'm down, when I need that push, they were there to give that push or be that cushion for me to fall on. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I definitely have to thank them. Like it's not an individual task,
Yes.
it is a collective thing, and definitely you need people to come out of those times. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It sounds like there's also a spiritual factor at work here. And that is
Yeah.
also a pillar of the leadership
Yeah.
redemption
Yeah.
framework that we're calling spirituality. And I think it'd be a great time, like, of course there's a format and questions, but I just think that this the vibe that we're having right now and the conversation we're having, from purpose to resilience, to me is embedded in some sort of spirituality that keeps you beyond and guides you beyond your natural strength. Because, I always say when I'm writing in the framework, resilience, not all resilience is created equal. Not all purpose is created equal. Not all a person's spirituality is created
Mhm.
equal. But if we leave certain components out, we miss out on building a new lexicon of a leader who's able to admit or acknowledge other forces and sources apart from education and family and stuff like that, that helps us thrive. So, do you feel comfortable talking about any part of your faith or your spirituality or your religion that played a key factor in keeping you sane and keeping you wise and keeping you being such a friendly person, that I didn't know about all the things that you were going through? But to me, it sounds like we have to talk about a spiritual component that's at work helping
Yeah.
you guide this work.
Uh, Definitely, Rashin. I mean, it's a huge part of who I am, at least, and the way, like, as a person and also a professional. For example, I told you, right, in tough times, like, obviously, what do you do when things are beyond your control or beyond your understanding? You don't know why that has happened, the way it has happened or turned out. Like, for example, if it is in your favor, you never question why it has happened like that.
Ooh.
Only when it is against what you wished it to be, you start questioning, oh, why did this happen, why did this turn
Yeah.
out to be like this? But when it goes all according to your wishes, you never question, like, oh, why did this happen? So yeah, for me it's like I it's like, okay, it was supposed to happen, it happened, and then I am a strong believer of karma. Like what goes around comes around, and I sincerely believe that if something has happened to me, like anything that I am not liking at the present moment, maybe I deserved that because I did something wrong, knowingly or unknowingly, before that I am getting this in the form of a lesson, or maybe this is preparing me for something better in the future. So this is how my spirituality helps me see those instances of pain and suffering, whatever unwanted
Mhm.
when we see. And then yeah, I think, yeah, karma is something, and also it helps me forgive, because leadership,
Mhm.
there is a lot to deal, there are all kinds
It
of
is.
people to deal with, and then it's exhausting. It's it's extremely exhausting. It burns you sometimes, dealing with people who sometimes you don't even understand why they are the way they are. It's you try all means, all
Yeah.
theories and frameworks that to get them, collaborate with them, but it's sometimes extremely impossible. But then that forgiveness comes. That's where spirituality comes, like, okay, these people are different from they have different opinions, they have different beliefs. It's okay, they are testing my patience, but let them be. Karma will take care. Let it be. Now I have, what is my karma? What am I supposed to focus on? Where I have to invest my energies?
Um,
Is it worth investing my energy on? Fine. I've done my part. Now I'll let it be. I've given my best to work on the situation. Now this is beyond my control. So now I'll move on to the next task where I can actually add value. Now my energy is no longer needed here. So
yeah.
I think that forgiveness, when people are mean to you or rude to you, leadership, they say it's a lonely place, right? It's very difficult to find people who you can trust, who you can count on. So I think in that lonely place, the only strength or support that you can find is in faith, or in your spirituality, where you turn to a higher power and then just sharing that, or trying to understand that you did your best, whatever you could, to the best of your abilities, and rest is just beyond your control, and you're leaving it to the universe to take care.
Yeah.
So, and also it gives you hope, because uh, I think hope is such a powerful thing. I think it's critical for resilience also. If you don't have hope, you don't find the strength, or the need to be resilient in that situation. It's because you're hoping that tomorrow will be better if you survive today,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think most of that hope also comes from faith and spirituality, for
Yeah.
people who believe in that.
Yes. So okay, let me dial back a little bit. You have said some stuff that in a black church we'll say, preach, honey. Like we be like, we talk back to the person who is speaking. We like, oh gosh, yes, like that, right? When you spoke to the component of forgiveness and the component of dealing with people and finding ways of trying to recover from peopling or dealing with leading change, right? And like I said, this framework is to serve as a backup generator for those on the front lines of leading change. You're the first point of contact your students would see. Your son sees you, your husband sees you. So it's not just leadership redemption in terms of the role you play in an actual position of power. It is just you, people depending on you when your batteries are low, like, or when you're at deficit. So a spiritual battery, I would call it a spiritual battery, is imputed, is put into you. From what I'm hearing you say, that's kind of like the image I have. Like, at what makes up Pavani would be her spiritual rituals, practices that then help her disperse hope, disperse forgiveness, disperse adding value from this place. Am I gathering that right?
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, it's more like not rituals, but again, thinking about the philosophies or what faith has told you, and then looking at it from the lens of whatever, like the person that you are today, not like the person who they're taught to as a kid. Like, you grow up listening to all the mythology stories and everything in your faith, right? But when you look at them from a fresh perspective, with all the learning that you have gained through these years, I think you pick up different lessons every time. I
Yeah.
think depending on the stage of life where you are, I find that very, very, I don't know, like, for me, they're important. Like, every time I revisit those stories, there is a new learning depending on who I have become, or
Mhm.
how I'm looking at those stories in a new light, in a fresh light. So yeah, and that definitely makes me a better person, right? You are also adapting the lessons to the life, transferring those lessons. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. It's a very interesting experience.
It is. And then when you're working in, well, let's say not working. For one, thank you for clarifying the word ritualistic and helping
Yeah.
me get it rooted properly into what it is how your spirituality works. Can we go deeper? Because on my platform we can, in terms of what is your spirituality rooted in, for guests who would love to know what it's rooted in. And I will preface it by saying, so far when we talk about spirituality as a pillar, guests are Christian, guests are Buddhist, guests some are atheist, some believe in Taoism, some believe in Confucianism, some believe in it's like we're uncovering so many things that I would not have known. But when we talk about the spirituality piece so far, everybody wakes up. Like they're not expecting that we can actually talk about this, because in our world we don't want to offend anybody, but to me a part of the leadership identity of a person is being able to label that, in general, yes, karma, but all people say that a lot of times, like use the word, oh, karma's gonna get you. But I love to for you as one who has authentic practice, right? To talk a little bit about what this, use the word religion or faith, however you want to use it, just to give us a bit more of the foundation that you stand on when you are talking about spirituality.
Yeah. So, obviously, like, my faith is grounded in like Hindu. My spirituality is grounded in Hindu faith. I'm raised a Hindu, but I would not call it a religion, because I see that people, when you say religion, there is so much of blind trust that is poured or pumped into the religion, which I want to stay away from.
Okay.
I'm very mindful and aware of that. For me, it's a faith. I prefer to use faith because I believe in that. I have faith in those principles,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
not like something blind faith, but it's a belief that, and also every belief that is again tested intellectually for, and constantly challenging whatever it's preached in the scriptures or in the religion. How does it stand the test of time, the
Yeah.
test of what changes have happened in the society? Okay, I mean, Hindu religion is 4,000 years old, right? I mean, there are so many things that were passed through these centuries, but how many of them still make sense to me as a person living in this new age, new world, in the age of AI? How much of it is still relevant? How much of it I can still proudly share with my son, to that can help him become a better person? I think that's what is more of a faith to me. And but you will see me everywhere. Like, one more thing that I like is, I mean, I respect all religions, I respect all faiths, and then I love to learn more about every faith and how they find. And it's interesting that I was having this conversation with a group of friends who each of us come from different faiths and religions. So I told them that how I see religion or faith is a way of, like, it's a recipe, it's
Ooh.
all the fundamental concept of every religion is to feed your soul. And it's just like, you like to eat pasta and pizza, I might like to eat some rice, dosa and idli, which is typical South Indian, right? For our own preferences, whatever our palate likes. I think whatever our soul connects with or prefers, I think that is the religion or faith that we connect with and then practice. That's it. At a fundamental level, they all serve the same purpose. The goal is to help us become better humans and guide us in times of darkness. I think that's the fundamental purpose of all religions and faiths. If I'm finding it that Hindu faith, because it works for me.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That is very, very good. And also helping me glean in relating back to the other faith-based or religious or spiritual practices. And the reason why Pavani and I are making sure we get our vocabulary right is because it's very important whether you call it spirituality, which is kind of
Mm.
like a blanket over
Yeah.
a blanket covering, but when we get it, so the reason why I built the foundation with her, by she talked about it, but I felt a need to go deeper into like grounding it a little bit more, that it's not just spirituality. 'Cause this is important to my colleague, that it's not just spirituality that we're talking about, but we're talking about a faith. And one of the things she talked about is not so much a religion to her, or religion period. It's what you have faith in, the principles, the philosophy that are time tested. In other words, that her religion is not a side quest, or her faith is not a side quest, or her faith is not a spiritual, it's not a side quest. It is right center in the middle and
Yeah.
brings alignment to the work that she does. So it's
Yeah.
almost like not, by not, for me, for my framework, by not talking about a person's spirituality, it's kind of like making them put one finger in one ear and listen out of this ear, or covering one eye and only watching out of this eye, or putting one finger in your nose and only breathing out of one nostril. We are full human beings here. And so what I want my framework to do is give way, open up access, that if Pavani decides that, once the framework is published or whatever, she said, I would like to use this on my team. I would like for her to be able to, whatever she just talked about, have that open space to navigate. I call build bridges, right? Or like build the interstate in your organization or in your place, where spirituality or faith or religion is whatever you are able to call it, where people still feel comfortable, loved, and welcomed by you as the leader. The reason why I say leadership redemption is because, unfortunately, there are people who do go by hierarchy, and they will only listen to you if you only listen to you because you are the leader. So that's why I would like to hold leadership to a higher standard of excellence. And you can be comfortable and excellent. You can be courageous and still be excellent, right? You can still do things with excellence, even if you're at the beach, or even if you're going, you can still do things in excellence, where people feel so covered and so protected by you as a leader, because they are trusting, that it's more than just a job and a paycheck these days. Like, people are hurting. So as I am having this conversation, I'm learning so much from Pavani and her way of thinking about everything. So I want to review from what brings her to the table. What brings her to the table, for one, is her friend Rasheen. Yes, honey, me, honey. So our friendship, but then she talked to us today about adding value. She just want to wake up and know that what she has done adds value. And it could be in her background academically, it could be in her faith, it could be anywhere, but she, in friendships, she just want to know that at the end of the day, when she woke up that day, when she laid her head down on a pillow, did I make the world a better place? And it's not so much a whole world, like all the globe. It is the world of the person that's right in front of her. We then talked about resilience. She discussed that resilience is flexibility and not leaving things to chance, and not just accepting a status quo, and not just going along just to get along, but finding ways to, what I call, redeem the times, redeem places where there's potholes in the road. Stick something in it and keep moving. If there's something that is broken and it's value to you, try to find a way to fix it. Don't just keep accepting life the way it's coming to you, because you may never get an opportunity, or an opportunity like that again. And because Pavani is one that, what we in America we would call a trailblazer, or someone who's a forerunner, someone who's been able to blaze a trail, because there was no way. That's what it is. There was no way. That's very critical for me to keep saying it. There was no other way, because besides the level of purpose, the level of resilience you have, right? And now we get into her spirituality, her faith, right? In terms of the karmic circle, or the karmic cycle, that it embedded in it. You don't have to put a finger on nobody. You don't have to try to break somebody down because they broke you down. Just by the mere fact that life goes around and it is a cyclical moment, and you want to be nice to as many people as you can, because when the shoe's on the other foot, you never know what hand you're going to have to play and what you're going to be dealt. So being kind, right, is not being kind for kindness sake. Be kind because that's what you want someone to be to you, right? So then we get into aspects of the faith that she has when she talks about. I think it's worth me saying to you and everybody, look at the amount of time. She talks about how Hinduism is 4,000 years old. She talks about the philosophies and the principles that are time tested and those that have lasted until her child, even her son, is going to be able to have a solid foundation, like it's generation and intergenerational. So that is where we are so far. That life has not been handed to her, life has not been handed to me, and I'm willing to bet life has not been handed to you, right? Even my friends that are very wealthy have pockets in their story of redemption where their parents have told them no, they can't get their endowments and their trust funds until they're 30, and like way like it's trust me. Success is what you make it. It is what you make it. There are people that are really entitled. Maybe they have a family that can do this. And me and Pavani, we didn't have any of that. We didn't have any of that, but yet we're here as good human beings. That's really what we had. We had examples in our lives, family, friends that gave us a good example, a good start, a good model for us to glean from. Now, Pavani, we want to go on to the last two questions. One is a person's well-being, a leader's well-being, and what helps you stay afloat, because you're just one person. Like as a mom, you can say as a mom, you can say as a wife, you can talk about this on, you have so many hats you wear. You can delve in and talk about this in any angle you want. But how important is well-being to you? And how gracious have you been to yourself? Because what the framework I put that in the framework is because it's so easy for us to talk about our spirituality as well-being, or talk about our resilience as well-being, or our purpose as well-being. I extracted it out for a purpose because I want to know how well my friends are, like wellness checks, and how are we doing, because we so good at taking care of everybody else. And then when we sit down at night, our legs may be tired. We cook the food, but when it's time to eat, I'm not hungry sometimes. So go for it. However you want to talk about well-being, personally or philosophically.
Yeah, like for me, like let's keep it simple, physical and mental well-being
Okay.
for now, and then
Okay.
let's see where the conversation goes. But if you want an honest answer for me, like until I came to Harvard, I never actually thought of well-being.
Oh.
I didn't even have the time to sit and think about, okay, what is well-being? What is my physical well-being or mental well-being? Because I told you my background, right? And you know the story. I think it's the same story for everybody who comes from an underprivileged background. You have to work really, really hard to get everything that you want to get in life. So it was the life until that point was only about survival and achievement. Like once you get to a step, okay, how do you move to the next step?
Ooh.
Right, there
Mhm.
was no break, there was no pause, because you have to keep moving. It's like a
Yeah.
race, and then there are responsibilities, there are financial responsibilities, you have to grow in your career, so you have to get another degree, find another job. So it was always about survival. I never got the time to sit and think about it. And the second is, I don't know if it's cultural or if it's just me or the kind of place that I worked. I really am that kind of person who wears burnout as a badge of honor.
Ooh, okay. Okay. I
Yeah, I'm
love it.
like, oh, yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, look at Pavni. She works 14 hours a day, 12 hours a day. She has not taken a single day off the whole year. I was like that person working constantly. And I'll tell you something funny.
Okay.
I mean, again, don't get me wrong. Like, I always loved my work. I mean, I was lucky enough to get some good projects and work on really meaningful projects. I loved working. So I used to work like 10, 12 hours a day. And then I used to feel bad when I had a Sunday off or, a holiday. Like, oh, I could have done this project if I was sitting in the office today. So
Oh,
that's how I was, not even able to enjoy a day break from work. That's how
okay.
much I liked work, but I didn't realize that, you know, you're the passion is for your mind, right? For your body, it's still a body, it's an engine, it's a physical entity that needs
Yes.
maintenance and rest. So I never realized that while I was working. It was only after I came to Harvard that I think I finally had that space and time to sit and think about, what is well-being, what does it mean to me, what can I do about it? Because I was a full-time working mother, and next day I was on a plane, and I was a bachelor doing her graduate studies, living all on my own. And then I didn't even have to work. Thankfully, I had the full scholarship from the Fulbright, so I didn't have to work, so I had all the time in the world to sit and think about it. So that's when I started thinking. And then as I told you, like, there were really dark times, and then there was I went through some really rough time, and then that's when this question became even more important. Not when life was going all right, when everything was going smooth, but when things were really getting rough. That's when I started thinking, okay, how can I take care of myself? How can I take care of my body? How can I take care of my mind? So that's when I started working out for the first time ever in my life. Like, the first time ever I stepped foot into a gym was at the Hemingway gym at Harvard. I never worked out because I never had the time to do that, and I never thought it was an investment. But now I strongly believe that. I mean, being that woman, like, just imagine like stepping into the gym for the first time in Harvard campus at this stage in life, to having a regular habit, a daily habit of working out, investing on your body at least 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even regardless of your schedule, is the journey that I made in this like 9 months. So the physical well-being part, it was easy. I realized how important it is for me to stay healthy and to work on myself, the physical body, to give my best at work or be my best. But the mental well-being piece, I'm still trying to understand what it means, because even for your listeners, Rashi, I've been like reading up a lot about it. Trying to understand what actually mental well-being means. Is it happiness? Is it purpose? Because I do have purpose in my life, right? I told you, I just shared what is my purpose. I think it's a pretty good purpose to for to have a healthy mental space. And I have meaning in my life. I have family. I have work that I enjoy. But still, when you struggle to define what mental well-being is, despite the numerous definitions or numerous diverse viewpoints that you hear around by all the famous people, i I think that mental well-being is something that you have to discover on your own,
Oh,
like
okay.
what it means to you. How do you define it? Like, if it is in your work, then it is your work. If it is in your solitude, it's your solitude. I mean, I think that's what I would say to your listeners also. I'm still in the process of that discovery. Like, I'm this, I've learned a few elements of it that can contribute to it, but I don't think I've fully cracked it, what it means for me, to be like what mental well-being is to me. But I think it's a process, it's a discovery that you have to make on your own. And everything out there, all the resources can only guide you in the possible directions, but ultimately you have to choose what works for you and what it means to you. And yeah, but yeah, that's about well-being. But yeah, right, and now I'm more aware of it, and I'm more intentional about it.
Okay.
And I strongly believe that it's important for you, because it hugely affects your work, your personal life and professional life, and who you are. And yeah, it's important that you handle yourself before you go out and handle your team in
Yeah.
the organization and the country. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because What you're describing for me is a form of adaptive leadership where so so then if I make the transfer when you're describing well-being to me, it seems like adaptability to me, rooted in. These are not your words, but it's like if I had to explain to someone or I had to write or discuss it through your lens, because really having my guests here is to look at the pillars through your lens, to shed light, new perspectives, give guests more than one way of looking and seeing through the pillars and making their choices about what they're going to do with their lives, with their work, and with what their purpose is for being alive. And I know that if I use your lens to look at it, it's a doable, it's a flexible, it's one of those things that I feel like if I'm before audience and I say, well, my friend Pavani describes resilience as this or well-being as this or that. And if I use the word being adaptable, so in other words, that being mentally strong enough to adapt
Yeah.
to whatever circumstance that you're in to keep you well, to
Yeah.
keep you well. If I'm saying it the way I'm hearing it back, or the way I would describe it, is to have that component about you that you're not just hanging your well-being on a physical gym or how strong your body is.
Yeah.
How strong is your mind?
Yeah.
One of the things that you said that was so key is we need to be about the business of handling our own before we trying to lead someone and handle theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. And also, I just want to contradict the same point here. Like, I agree that we need to learn to handle ourselves, but the more reflect on this, the more also I start thinking that as a leader, I mean, I think that's one of the notions that we have, that as a leader you have to be strong and handle yourself, but it's okay if you can't handle yourself. Like, it's okay if you're suffering, is it's okay if you're in pain. It's I think we should stop looking at it from a very negative outlook and perspective, because I think even there is so much learning that we can take from that those phases. And I just want to, because I think it's very important, Rasheen. I thought I'll share it when we are closing the session, but I think it's makes more sense now. As leaders or as individuals who are ambitious or who are very driven, I don't think we give that grace and kindness as much as Like, I talked about forgiving others in the name of faith, but how forgiving are we to ourselves? So yeah, so I think there has to be a shift in how we look at mental well-being, and it's okay if you're like going through something, accept it, work on that.
Mm,
It should never be the goal, like, oh, I have to make it right. I have to fix myself. It's okay if the fixing takes time, and the fixing should not be your goal. I think the goal here should be working on it or putting some effort there.
yeah.
So I think that shift is very important, because that also creates a lot of stress for leaders and people like us who are like constantly working and running around. I think, yeah, the goals, and in terms of goals, it's very important.
Hmm. So in other words,
Mm.
this leader who may be uptight right now or in
Yeah.
crisis mode, one of the things they can actually afford to do is have more grace, have more,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, like that, right? Just kind of like
Yeah.
relax, pipe down a little bit and just relax enough to see yourself coming through some of the trials. Because when
Yeah.
we're in crisis mode, in disaster mode, for me losing my organization and having everything pummeled down on me, and I'm losing my health, I'm losing money, I'm losing my life, look like, um, you can't think straight. You
Yeah.
cannot think straight. You can't even think about grace because like you just in a constant fall. Like
Yeah.
you're in a fall from grace. That's the way it felt for me. It felt like I was failing. Even though the things that I was suffering were not necessarily my fault in the building collapse and losing all the clients and I mean, things I would never even dream of waking up that I wouldn't have it the next day. I think I can take that I think I can apply what you're saying to me right now. I know the listening audience, y'all be doing I have to figure out what's going to work for me too. So this is helping me, honey. So basically going back to looking at not let's say if we go back to resilience and flexibility, well-being,
Yeah.
adaptability,
Yeah.
being strong mentally, a component, a viable component is not being so hard on yourself
Yeah.
and not condemning your.
And
Yeah, what were you
yeah.
going to say?
No, I have learned it the hard way. I've learned it the hard way. It's still difficult for me to be kind to myself and to, be okay. And also, I think when you were talking about when everything around you is coming down, it's difficult to think straight. And I totally understand. Like, it's very human to feel that way and, not being able to think straight. But I think what we can do, or the kind of maturity that we hope that we can have, is having an understanding that it's okay that it is happening to you, and then also having this at the back of our mind somewhere, that this is something that is happening to you, and then you have done your best, and then you need your time, this will pass. Like, keep saying that, finding that strength or inner voice to keep saying that to ourselves. I think it's very important. And yeah.
Yeah, because another way of thinking is that if you are resilient, um, have purpose, you have some sort of alignment that's happening. Like when you employ the pillars of redemption, it's really alignment, helping that leader come into alignment, spirituality coming into alignment. Therefore, when you get to crises, it's like my goal is to make sure you're not seeing that something's happening to you, but something's happening for you,
Yeah.
right? Something's also happening through you. Like
Yeah.
you're going to come out of it. You're not there to stay. This is like a visitation. We're not trying to be in crisis our entire life and trying to struggle our whole life that we don't enjoy anything. Because I want to make sure that as you're listening to me and Pavani, that's what we're trying to say, that we have been gifted enough to have skills that have helped us come out of some of the worst and even the best situations in our lifetime and be here to tell you about it, not even 60 days from graduating from Harvard. So at this point in our lives, we're here to be like a light to you, if you want that. But we're also here to be a voice of inspiration. We're also here to be a voice of hope. We want to be whatever we're able to be to you so that you can find redemption from where you sit from your vantage point. The final question is on lifespan. Do you think there's a difference between well-being, lifespan? Because really the question is on the interview normally is how do you define it? But I think we've done that. I think we've done a good job on, infusing and having this wonderful dialogue in so far. But do you have any thoughts, let's just say, on what lifespan, really is in your daily work and what you hope to achieve long term?
Yeah. So, like, as I shared, when you have a vision which is bigger than you, when you have such a grand and lofty goals to achieve, obviously one lifetime feels very short, right? You don't see that as enough time to achieve what you were set out there to achieve. So the only hope is that for me is, the common saying, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So as long as I am able to see that I'm in the right direction, like my compass is always pointing out in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
and then as long as I'm able to see those little milestones along the way, that proves me that okay, I'm on my way, the to wherever I set out. I think uh, that's what lifespan is about, right? Sometimes it's not even about achieving or realizing or actualizing whatever you're dreamt of doing, even if it is that feeling or sense of fulfillment that you are walking in the right direction. You've spent your life walking in the right direction, and those were little milestones that you came across on your way. I think that's a good satisfied life to have. And Also, it's about, when you're talking about lifespan, it also, when you talk about how long it is and how good or rich it was in
Yeah.
terms of the life that you have lived and the experiences that you have lived, I definitely have to thank Harvard for that, because it gave me multiple opportunities to build those meaningful, deep experiences, and try to keep having, or strive for more of them in my daily life back here when I'm back at home. And I think they both feed each other. Like, once you have a quality life or a rich life, it can work both ways. In one
Okay.
way you feel like you want more of it because you feel so good about your life, and in the other way it also feeds sort of to that satisfaction or contentment that it's okay, even if my life is short, I'm doing what I
Oh.
was set to, I'm here to do. So it can go both ways. But I would say that if you're living a life where you're creating some positive change and impacting lives in a positive way, better to have a long life. So that's where your physical and mental well-being was also connect to. Because if you're doing good work, the world needs more people who do good work. It needs more good people. Definitely, there is nothing like, oh, we have too many good people, or there is too much good work happening. So it's better to have many people doing it for a longer time. So that's what it means. And then I think, in an attempt to build quality or to make that life rich, is also, there should be a conscious effort from your side on how you're creating that space in your life to build those rich and meaningful experiences. Right? It's your responsibility to create that time and space. And I think, as a leader, what I've learned is how I'm delegating the tasks, and how I'm choosing the tasks, like what to do, and most importantly what I choose not to do. How can I say no to things, so that all this, I mean, delegating, choosing, being very intentional about the projects that I pick and the tasks that I do, the kind of people that I hang out with, I think all this creates the time and space to build that quality and richness in life.
Mm.
So I think that's very important, so that you can align and focus your energy on what truly matters, rather
Yeah.
than getting lost in all the details and all the other work. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Because if we're busy doing the work and
Yeah.
resilient enough and strong enough through resilience to battle through the work, right?
Yeah.
And then we have, our human intuition that guides us, like, in spirituality. By the time we think about our well-being, it's kind of like in our lifespan, it's kind of like the thing we think about the day before we have no other choices. And so one of the
Yeah.
things I wanted to do in the framework was bring that to the forefront for leaders to think about, their quality of life, to look at how much in control are we. There are people who respond, they don't think that they're in control of their lifespan. Like, they just believe what will be. Pavani, do you have any closing wisdoms here? I always say, is there something you leaving on the table? Is there something you taking away from the table that you learn? And finally, do you have any final words of encouragement for me as I go on this journey, continuing to find redemption and bring and disperse redemption? You can answer all or one, however you want to go with it. That is just the final closing question.
Okay. I think we have covered whatever I wanted to share, but uh, talking as an educator, I want to close with some of the misconceptions that people might have, because
Okay.
here we have to acknowledge the fact that we are both two Harvard, Barricade scholar, and a Fulbright scholar sitting here and chatting. So, how does it apply to a common man, or an individual who is listening, who is not even a leader? Let's say, so I think one of the biggest misconception is, when you talk about purpose, people think that, oh, you have to have this grand purpose or a big
Mhm.
purpose. You have to be like a superhero and, saving the world sort of purpose. I don't think that's true. Purpose is everywhere if you have the will to look for it.
Mhm.
Even my 8-year-old will have his purpose if he finds or looks for it. So it's not about the kind of role that you are or where you are in that ladder of hierarchy or the kind of work that you're doing, like how important or unimportant it is. It's about doing your job with integrity, or finding purpose in whatever you're doing. It's not about, uh, it doesn't go the other way. So, whatever you are, wherever you are, you find a purpose there, whoever you are. So, and that finding that purpose is important, because that actually feeds to the resilience, the well-being, and the lifespan. Everything that we talked about, it all boils down to that core element of finding purpose. And to find purpose, you don't have to be world leaders or institutional leaders or Harvard students. You, wherever you are, you still can find purpose. So please, my request is to look for it, or try to, I don't know, bring it out and say it to you, like to others, like what is your purpose. Try to have that conversation with yourself. And second is, Rasheen has talked so much about well-being and, lifespan, and understanding that life is, what you make of it. Like, there is so much that is still in your hands. Like, I understand, like, coming again as a person of faith and believing in karma, there are so many things that are out of our control and that happen to us. But there is so much still in your hands, or what we can make out of any given situation. So I think never losing that agency, that never underestimating the power that you have in any given situation is very, very important. And that's what it re- builds resilience, actually. And finally, I would say just be kind to yourself, because I think all the positive emotions, when we talk about love, kindness, grace, and everything, we tend to apply it or give it to other people, but not to ourselves. So I think it's important that we give a little bit of that to ourselves too. And finally, I would say, uh, redemption is not about trying to fix, or not about fixing what went wrong. It's about uh, reclaiming what still feels right. Like, yes, whatever wrong happened, acknowledging that wrong happened. It's like you don't even have to fix it, but trying to see whatever is right. And even beyond, like, despite that, whatever is still right, whatever you can still work on, whatever you can still give, and believing that there is always still a chance to grow, to try, and to become a better person. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So these are my closing thoughts. Yeah.
That is good. I love the way you defined and redefined and clarified and broke things down to make it palatable, making sure that everybody can eat from this table of redemption. This was really good.
This
Any
is
closing?
not for allied people. Yeah. This is
Yeah.
for everybody.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I just took time through each of our conversations to kind of like break it down so everybody can be up to speed and that we can all have a wonderful dining experience at this table as we feed upon the wisdoms and insights and knowledge and wisdoms that we have and have been just sitting in our souls. And, and this is a platform to share those things. Do you have any words of encouragement or any words of wisdoms for your friend as I continue this journey on keeping this platform going?
Yeah, I wish you the best of luck in this journey. I'm very confident and positive that you'll do an amazing job. And I can't wait to see the published work of the leadership framework. And I, I just hope that we could collaborate
Yeah.
again, as and try to take it, the essence of it, to as many people as we can, not just to the folks in the US, but globally through our community, through the Harvard community and the shared community that we share as individuals. Like, for example, you said that there is a connection in our stories. We are more like sisters slash colleagues. So I think there are so many people who need that wisdom, and I can't wait what comes out of it, and take that wisdom to as many people and others in the community as I can.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, I always say that at the table of redemption, I hope that you've been well fed through intellectual excellence, through our level of hope that we have been trying to use this entire time to build a bridge from where you are to where you want to be. I hope that you have ordered what you want. Ordering means that you're ordering up your goals, you're putting them in order, right? So, yes, these are metaphors and these are just ways of play on words, but I'm being very intentional by calling it a table because you can sit to a table and reconcile. In my background, there's a table, there's a desk, right? So it's a place where we sit and reason. And this framework is talking to the leader saying, I need you to finally pull yourself together and reason with yourself. I want you to love yourself. I want you to prioritize yourself. I want you to have your human intuition and listen to yourself. I would like for you to, if you feel like your purpose is you burnt out from your purpose, I want you to find a new purpose. Like, so keeping the cycle going that like you're worthy of all these amazing things that are coming down your path, right? But also being able to be strong enough, right? To be able to lift that weight that's upon you to thrive and without the expectations of anybody else but just you. Because when we talk about all the components of the framework through Pavani's lens, we now know that we can be a bit more flexible towards ourselves, more gracious towards ourselves, more adaptable towards ourselves, and then also just sometimes you have to surrender. Sometimes it might not have worked out the way you thought it would work out, but sometimes just surrender and saying, okay, I'll come back to it, or I might not finish. I might not. But you're getting a new type of satisfaction that you've done all you could. Because I talk to a lot of leaders who are in their 50s and 60s who are filled with regret. They're looking back on their days and times and trying to figure out, what did I do with my life? Or people who I know with six figures, they can't figure out where the money went. Okay, there are people who have an abundance of everything and the weight on their head to figure out, what did I do with all that I had? So it's not just like Pavani said, this framework and what this conversation is not for the haves, people who have, it's for the have-nots. Or it's not for people who can go. It's for the people who have to stay. It's not. That's why I use the word redemption intentionally, because it is not a word that you can get around without figuring out how you yourself can figure out how to come back, win it all, and get back out there and do what it is you were born to do. So as I always say, what is going to bring you to my table of redemption? Whose lives are you changing? How are you changing humanity? And how are you giving back, even in times of crisis? We need you. We need what you have. We love you. We adore you. And we are excited about you. So how about this? Next time I find you, I'm going to ask you, so what brings you to the table of redemption? I'm Rasheen Jamison-Richardson, host and founder of the podcast. Thank you, Pavani, for joining me from India this time, your time of night. And right now it's 3:05 here, so I can't imagine how tired you may be or not. But this has been one for the books, and I'm so grateful. You guys have a great time and have a great life, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The Table of Redemption podcast disclaimers. Views expressed, branding, and mutual benefit. The Table of Redemption podcast is part of the collaborative refinement phase of the Leadership Redemption Framework before it goes to market. This is a research-based initiative led by myself, Rasheen Jamison-Richardson, your host. Guest participation contributes to scholarly exploration through narrative inquiry and receives platform exposure in return. Rasheen, myself, do not receive financial compensation from guest appearances or their affiliated work. This project is not formally endorsed by Harvard University, Harvard Graduate School of Education, or any institution or any sponsorships at this time. Any reference to anyone's brand, including Harvard's brand, are solely based on my academic experiences as a graduate student and now an alumni. And I do not imply institutional affiliation or approval on any of the content that I am producing. This is all my original work, designed, built, and invented by me across a 20-year experience as an educator and practitioner and researcher. All stories remain the intellectual property of the guest and are shared with mutual respect, transparency, and the shared goal of building bridges of hope and redemption in times of crisis. To continue following the Table of Redemption podcast, you may visit www.thetableofredemption.com. You may be able to find our content on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.